Without a doubt, my favourite shape of car is the two-door coupé. Some people like wagons, others like convertibles, but for me, it's all about the coupé. This is the BMW 420i, and it's the entry-level model to the all-new 4 Series. There are 2 other models in this range, the 430 and the M440, and I'll be reviewing those in the coming weeks. Unlike other entry-level BMWs, this car is no poor second cousin, and with its M Sport body kit, it really does look the business. Now, the first thing that everyone notices about this car, and by far its most divisive feature, is its all-new enlarged kidney-shaped grille. Now, I think personally it actually vaguely resembles a former US president's pouting lips. But whichever way you look at it, it certainly is a very striking feature that grows on you over time. I actually now think it looks really, really good. In fact, videos and photos of this car don't do it justice. It looks much better in the metal. Under the hood, we've got a 2-litre 4-cylinder twin-turbo engine that outputs 135 kilowatts and 300 newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 in 7.5 seconds, and you get 6.4 litres per 100 kilometres fuel economy. It's a very quiet, refined engine that's great for the city. On freeways, while you're overtaking, it does struggle a little bit at those higher revs.
The headlights are LEDs, and this car has been optioned with BMW laser lights.
Practicality isn't always a huge concern of buyers of a two-door coupe, but you do get a usable 440 litres of space in the boot, which is bigger than a Merc, but smaller than an Audi. This car has come optioned with a powered tailgate, which in a car this size just seems a little bit unnecessary, but it's kind of nice to use. Inside these big frameless glass doors, you'll find a very attractive interior that I think is actually a little more practical than the one I saw in the Audi A4 a few weeks ago. It's just a little bit better laid out. The materials are the highest quality, as they always are with BMW, with soft touch materials up here on top of the dash. We've got a very nice big 10.25-inch infotainment screen in the middle. Some nice aluminium accents with a nice textured finish as well. The infotainment system is actually one of the best on the market. The Germans really do this better than just about anybody else, except maybe for Tesla. But this system is extremely good. The graphics are very sharp. There's full DAB, FM and AM radio, plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both working wirelessly. The navigation system is razor sharp, the maps look great, although perhaps not quite as good as what you find in Audi, who use Google Maps, but it's still extremely good.
Our car has also been optioned with ambient internal lighting, which comes in several different colour combinations. The 420i has 3-zone climate control with nice solid metal buttons to select the temperature.
Underneath that, we've got a row of buttons numbered 1 to 8. Now, in a previous BMW review, I thought that these were just radio station presets, and a number of people told me that no, that is not the case. And thank you for doing that, because now I know that these are actually preset buttons that you can set to whatever you like. So if you want to have a regular destination set in at number 1, you can have that there. If you want to have your favourite radio station set at number 2, you can have that. If you want to change the settings of the head-up display, you can assign that to button number 3. These are 8 buttons which you can do whatever you like. Moving down the dash here to the centre, we've got a very usable space under this textured metal lid, which hides a couple of cup holders, a USB port and the wireless phone charging. Next to that, the rotary wheel for the iDrive system. Now you can control the system either by touch on the screen, or you can use the scroll wheel if you're more comfortable with that. There are also some shortcut buttons here for the map and the nav and the media and the radio controls. We've got the Sport Mode, Comfort Mode and Eco Pro Drive Mode selector. A good usable space under the centre bin here, which has a USB-C port as well. The head-up display on the windscreen is great. It's really sharp and bright. You can also quite conveniently put your song selections up there as well. So if you're wanting to find a favourite song on your playlist, you can get to it without having to take your eyes off the road, which is really good. The 12-inch digital instrument cluster is good. It has nice sharp graphics and it changes colour with whatever drive mode you're in and can show you some maps, but it's just not as flexible or as versatile as the one you find in an Audi. You just can't customise it that much. You can cycle through some different dials showing you power outputs and fuel economy, but that's really about it. The steering wheel is just a little bit too big for me. Like a lot of BMWs, it just has this kind of chunky feel to it. There's nothing wrong with the steering's great, but the wheel itself could just be a tad smaller, I think. We've got cruise controls here on the left and also phone and radio controls here on the right with a couple of paddles behind it. The seating position is nice and low in the cabin, but with such a low roof, being a cool looking two-door coupe, there's not an awful lot of headroom. I'm just millimeters away from touching the ceiling. But the view over the top of the bonnet is actually quite good. I can see right to the edges of the bonnet. Visibility out the back is pretty good, but of course with the cool coupe shape, I do have limited visibility from the rear side windows. One feature I really like about this car is when you shut the door, the car very politely hands you a seatbelt to put on. And then it retracts, pulling you in nice and snug. Getting into the back of a two-door coupe is probably more for a contortionist than a tall person like me who's 190 centimeters. As the seat is closing in on me, it's getting tighter and tighter in space. Going back to my seating position, and as you can see, there's really no way I can fit in here comfortably. My knees are hard up against the seat. My head, it is hard up against the roof there. So not really good for me, but for kids or shorter people, yeah, this could work. It's strictly only 2 passengers back here in the back seat as well. There's only 2 seat belts, so 2 in the front, 2 in the back. 3-zone climate control in this car, so the rear passengers can control their own temperature, as well as 2 USB-C ports. And we've got more of this nice synthetic leather that we get in the front, and also the Alcantara accents as well. A couple of armrests with more of the blue stitching. Feels comfortable-ish if I could fit in here, but I think this will be the only time I ever sit in the back seat of this car. Dynamically, this car is fantastic. It sits lower to the ground, it's wider than its predecessor also, and with its rear-wheel drive, you really do feel like you can have a lot of fun in the curves. It is extremely quiet in here. In fact, when my son first got in, he asked if this was an electric car. Really, there is almost no outside noise from the world at all, and the engine only really makes a noise when you put your foot down, and at those high revs, it just makes a little bit of a growl. I'm looking forward to trying the M440i though. That's the one that pops and crackles at the back. I'm looking forward to hearing that. This car gets a lot of attention, and it's got nothing to do with its performance, but it's all about the looks, particularly that front grille. It turns so many heads when you're stopped at the lights and there's people crossing the road in front of you. They all take a good look at that grille, and it's polarizing. It divides opinion. And it's really grown on me. I actually really like it. I think it's a great design feature. It's just, with this model, there is a bit of a lack of power. You can kind of feel it sort of drain away as soon as we hit a hill, and I put my foot down and there's just not the pickup that you'd perhaps expect for a car that looks like this. But for around town, there's more than enough power. On suburban roads, this car is perfectly adequate. You don't need anything more than this, and it has all of the looks and style that you're after. This car maybe is a bit of a case of style over substance, and that's not a criticism, it's just the way that this car is marketed. If you really want style and substance, then maybe the 430 or the 440i is the one you should be going for. I am missing radar cruise control in this car. I don't know why BMW haven't included it on this entry-level model, but it's a standard feature on a lot of cars that cost half as much as this one, and frankly, when you're so used to using it and handing that trust over to the car itself, when it's not there, it's actually a little bit scary on the freeway because you don't know what the car in front of you is going to do. You've got to be ready on the brake at any moment, and I don't know. It was like that in the old days, but I'm just used to radar cruise control now. I want it here. The suspension in this car is definitely on the firmer side of soft, even in comfort mode, and just driving on this little stretch of gravel road here, I'm feeling everything and I'm in comfort mode. I think an SUV would handle this a little bit better than this car. So in these corners, there is just no body roll. We are just going around these so beautifully and flatly. It just feels so well planted to the road, and the steering is so direct. You just point it and it goes exactly where you want it to go. Sport mode in this car is also customizable with the Sport Individual mode, allowing you to customize the steering, engine and transmission as to whether or not you want them in comfort or sport mode. So you might prefer to have lighter steering and leave it in comfort, but you want the engine in sport mode with that extra responsiveness, and maybe the same with the transmission. It's up to you how you want to do it. The bolsters in the seats, which I've tightened up to really hug my body in nice and firmly, are doing such a good job. I feel really comfortable in this seating position now. On a road like this car is just so much fun. And there's not so much power that I think I'm going to get into trouble. It's quite manageable. Starting at $70,900 and about 10 grand more for how it's spec'd here, the BMW 420i, and yes, I know a few people will be giggling at that name, is a terrific entry-level model to the 4 Series range. But BMW do sting you on the options a little bit here. I've got the fact sheet. The visibility package featured on this car, which includes the metallic paintwork, the sunroof, the laser light headlights and the ambient internal lighting, is $6,300. And the comfort package for the lumbar support, the automatic tailgate and the seat heating for the front 2 passengers is an additional $2,860. And by the time you get to that point, you might as well start thinking about the next model up, which has the same engine as this one but with a higher output, the 430i. So my advice, take the 420i for a test drive, try it out, but if you really want to go the options, then maybe the 430i would be a better value deal for you.